Gene Steratore was the head referee in the Super Bowl in February, and then he retired after nearly 2 decades at the highest level of his sport. He's now part of the CBS family as a rules analyst and specialist and expert. And we were really excited to have a few minutes with him, and he was so generous with his time. I cannot wait for you to hear this conversation with Gene Steratore. We're breaking it up into 2 parts. This is part number 1. Gene, it's so good to talk to you. The first thing I have to ask about is really what's been a topic around the NFL for the first month. Without fail, roughing the passer rules and protecting quarterbacks and the new emphasis that the league has put on this particular area of the game. I understand the league is trying to make it more safe. It's trying to preserve the life of its quarterbacks, who, of course, are faces of franchises, the most marketable commodities. But for you as a referee and for the guys who are out there trying to implement this emphasis, how difficult is it for a ref to make that type of a call, to throw that flag when it's all about the judgment?
You know, the roughing the passer and you're so right with how many different rules have been implemented over the recent history. You know, the target area for a defender is very minimal if you really think about it, because anything at the knee or below or toward the head or neck area limits the scope in the area that they can contact the passer. I will say, from an officiating standpoint and from a lover of football, that I think every rule that they've implemented has been a wonderful rule, because there is a lot of safety that kind of the quarterback or a passer should have some special protection, because he really is the only player on the field for the most part is standing still and getting hit by someone that's moving so fast at him. So I'm all for all of the safety, the new implementations and new rules that they've put in over the years for the quarterback. This one, what it appears is happening, and what it felt like happened here in the first few weeks, is that they've kind of put a directive out that is saying, if it's the majority of body weight, and some black and white issues on what I always felt like as a referee in the NFL, I wanted to have a little bit of play and allow myself to use my officiating experience or officiating acumen to apply some judgment as to whether I felt like, the majority of body weight's on a quarterback, but is it just a good football play and it's physics, because this guy just got there clean and wraps the quarterback up, and these guys are so big and so fast, and a standing person, naturally their bodies are going to fall right on top of each other very quickly. With that said, I always felt like if I thought he gave him a little more, or as Ben Dreiss said, giving him the business as he was taking him down, or a little something extra just to punish unnecessarily, then I believe that I would call that roughing then, and allow myself to make that judgment, although it happens in a fraction of a second. When you're screwed in out there, you'll feel the difference, I think. And I would hope that scope opens a little and allows the officials to apply some of that.
Something else that was new this year is the emphasis on not leading with your helmet. So it's being called the helmet rule. It's brand new, whether offensive player, defensive player, you cannot lead, and you certainly can't target. And now we've seen a couple of guys get tossed out on their first personal foul of the game, though we haven't seen that rule applied as much, Gene. But how much pressure does that put on officials when it's your judgment call to either allow a guy to stay or to end his night early?
Yeah, the couple ejections that happened early. I only had one ejection in my 15 years as an official in the NFL, and it jumped way out. And for the most part, I think the rule prior maybe to this year was they leaned more to us not ejecting players on the field, and then the powers that be that reviewed those plays the next day or so would fine the players. So they kind of went to their pocketbook more than they went to ejecting them on the field. With the hits that we saw take place with Andrew Luck and Cam Newton, when you're on the field and you see something like that happen, and you feel like it's raised itself to the level of an ejectable offense, you would like to be able to eject him. I think the fact that this happened so quickly this year in a couple plays, that hopefully that has pulled some of the players back from maybe taking a shot like that. Missing a game is a big thing in the NFL, and they're limited rosters. So when someone leaves the field for that day, It definitely is. It's a very big statement to be made. So, but as an official, if it feels like it's ejectable to that level, which both of those hits I agree totally were, I don't think it's something that causes them any anxiety.
No, it just causes anxiety among the fans. Gene, another thing that's changed in the last 15 years, going back to the point at which you first started in the NFL in 2003, is that now officials are household names that used to be relatively anonymous. I never knew who the officials were in NFL games when I first started covering the sport. What would you say is the biggest change over the course of your career when it comes to officiating?
It does appear, and I did live through that moment of what you said, where we were very obscure and really not spoken about. And I think with the increase, the HD TV, social media has exploded throughout my career in the 15 years. And, I used to get the look when I was a referee, when you were at the store or something, or walking through an airport, that someone would look at you and wonder, like, why do I recognize you? I really don't know why. Did you teach me 8th grade English or something? It was that kind of look, like I know you for some reason, but I don't know why. But we are more recognizable, and it is talked about more. And I think social media has fueled a lot of that. But it's now part of this job. You are somewhat recognizable, at least certain positions. And in the NFL, being a referee, as opposed to what I did in basketball, when a referee announces something in the NFL, he becomes part of the production of that, of that specific game too. So there definitely is more recognition now to the officials.
We're spending a few minutes with Gene Steratore, longtime NFL referee, and now has moved into the broadcast booth as a rules expert with CBS. Gene, I'm glad you brought up social media, because I wondered this. I don't know how many officials are on Twitter, on Facebook, or listen to sports radio and TV, but it can be harsh out there. So how much do you know about officials in the sport hearing that feedback?
Honestly, from my personal viewpoint, never. I never logged on to it. I never joined it. I would almost want to go out on a limb and say that I don't know of any official at all in either sport that has social media accounts.
Wow.
Now, whether they, surf through it or search through it for entertainment purposes, I don't know who would want to do that as an official. I don't think there's that many tweets out there or things out there that are being said that are, very kind towards them. But being an active person in social media, most definitely frowned upon, to a very high level when it comes to officiating. So I really didn't engage in it in any way, shape, or form.
I sure wish I could live in that bubble with you, Gene. All right, you brought up instant replay. This is also something that creates a lot of angst among football viewers, but I think the league is concerned with it too, because there was a recent play even in the Browns-Raiders game in which first down is awarded to Cleveland, and then upon a replay, that first down is taken away. So when you look at these games and you recognize the technology and the role of it, but at the same time understanding that there are live officials on the field, where's the balance? How much should instant replay be used in the NFL?
It's a great question, and I can probably to address it two ways. The first part, which would be very pro instant replay, is that as an official, understand that every official wants to really get every play right, knowing that he probably will never work the perfect game in any sport. It's just an accepted reality. So you do want to make sure that if something can be corrected, an egregious error or just something that you didn't see in real time, and I haven't been off the field long enough to not empathize with the speed of that game and how fast it is. So unbelievably fast. I could never explain it to you unless you were down there. So things do happen, and you get screened also. People are moving quickly through your view. So we would always want an egregious mistake to be corrected if possible. So as replay has grown and it continues to grow, there are more things that we are correcting. I think the downside to that, from my view as just an official, is nobody has ever played the perfect game either, so mistakes and human error, although they're very frustrating and they cause us to get emotional. To me, it was always part of the excitement. Maybe it was just my twisted way as an official to think that, part of the entertainment today for everybody is not only do they want to watch their players and their team succeed and do all of what they do, but maybe a little bit of it in the back of their mind was, and we'll want to see how bad the refs mess up today too, because there's a chance, they could cost us the game. So that anticipation of something like that, maybe that's in some of the entertainment part of it. And there is a human element to this that I think makes it what it is. It makes it very entertaining on that regard. And now that instant replay has gotten involved in a lot of these things and a lot of plays, it's almost as if the acceptance of the human element and a human error by an official, it's just not acceptable now. We're supposed to be perfect. We're the only people that are supposed to be perfect. But because it can be fixed, or some things can be fixed, then the floodgates want to open. And that's, we want everything to be reviewed. We have to get everything right. And so I'm not for that at all. But I am for making sure that if there are things that go through the chains of command that they believe should be put into the replay review system, that they are in there, because we do want to get everything right,
We're spending a few minutes with longtime NFL referee and Big Ten official Gene Steratore, now part of our CBS family. It's After Hours with Amy Lawrence on CBS Sports Radio. Gene, why did you decide to get into officiating in the first place?
Some of it was just, I was born into it. My father was a Division I football official and a Division I basketball official for 30 plus years. So, when I was a 5 or 6 year old kid on the field at Penn State watching Lydell Mitchell and Franco Harris and those people play, I really wasn't watching the players. I was watching my dad, and I was watching officials because that was my dad out there. And, I have an older brother who is still a back judge in the NFL now, my brother Tony, who preceded me in the NFL by 2 years. And it's been a family affair. I have a cousin right now that works 70 Division I women's basketball games and has been an official in the Big Ten in football for 6 years. So officiating has just been something that one of the 7 children that I grew up with, one of them was always a referee for Halloween. Somebody put Dad's shirt on and went out and collected candy with the referee uniform on. So I think we were just born into it, truthfully.
Gene, I think a lot of fans are really interested in what the work week is like for an NFL official. We've heard the debate about part-time versus full-time. So if you wouldn't mind, could you take us behind the curtain and tell us, what is your average week of prep like to be ready for Sunday?
Probably one of the best kept secrets in the league, to be honest with you. And as a referee, I can tell you I did document that personally. I did a few news articles and things of that nature throughout the course of the season when the NFL would permit it, to allow that window or that curtain to be pulled back a little. But it is between 25 and 30 hours a week of preparation. A game would end on Sunday. You would get your hard drive in that locker room of the game as it played the television, depending on how long your flight was back home that night that you got out, usually on a 1 o'clock game. You were on your way home by 8 o'clock that evening. You sit in the plane and you put that hard drive in and you watch. I always watch my game coming home that night because I wanted to see, the most important part initially was, how did this entire 3-hour affair play to television? Did we move the game along efficiently? Did the game play well to TV and the viewing audience? That's the first step. So I would get home. That would be finished, would always be finished before I went to bed Sunday evening. So then you would wake up Monday, kind of revisit most of everything, get all of your paperwork and reports filed on a computer program that the league provides, penalty reports, game times, all of these things that a referee would do on Monday, get all the paperwork finalized. Tuesday morning at 5:30 every Tuesday morning, UPS or FedEx dropped off a hard drive on my front porch that had all 17 games that were played the Sunday, that day before Monday night, on a hard drive. And there would be 3 angles of those games on that hard drive: sideline view, end zone view, and then the television view. And then we would start breaking that game down. And Tuesday you would get what would be called a preliminary grade from your game. And people fail to understand this as well. There are 7 officials on the field in the NFL. every official is graded on every single play of every game, whether there was a foul or not. There are thousands of decisions being made in a football game by every official throughout that entire game. He is graded on, or she is graded on every single play, and that all occurs Tuesday. A grader from New York who was assigned to your game had done that and sent a preliminary report out which lists every play and what their thoughts were on each play. And then there would be what we would call potential downgrades that would occur throughout that series of between 100 and 165, 150, 165 plays. Tuesday evening, have a conference call with your entire crew, go over the preliminary downgrades or comments that were made on that report. Then we would submit what our feelings were to their potential, the grades that were up for discussion or were up for evaluation then. So that process would take, really Tuesday was a 4 or 5 hour day going through all of that and watching this game from multiple angles. Wednesday morning, by noon that day, you would get what we would call the final grade. Your preliminaries would go on Tuesday night. They would collaborate amongst the 9 supervisors, 9 to 11 people on all the games back in New York. Then you would get your final grade that week. And, believe it or not, in the NFL, and naturally, we would, there would be a few 50-50 plays in there that the officials didn't think that the grader grade correctly and vice versa. And I can say this very proudly, even with those discrepancies where we may not have agreed with our grader or with the office, let's say, our averages of being correct in the NFL, officials average 97% correct every week collectively as a unit. And I own a business in my personal life, and I can tell you if my employees were 97% efficient, they would get one heck of a Christmas bonus. And that's the truth of NFL officials. We are roughly 97% correct on everything we rule on throughout that game. Now, the business, the way it is, if that 1% happens to be that first down in Oakland or this one play that we missed, it becomes an extremely long week. So Wednesday, we would always put last week's game to bed. During Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday as a referee, I was always looking ahead because we would get our games three weeks in advance. I would also, on that 17-game hard drive from each week, start looking ahead and watching the teams that I was going to have in the next 2 or 3 weeks beyond for trends or tendencies or who's really playing well or what type of offense do they run? Do they run no huddle? All the things that coaches would do to prepare for their opponent, we did to prepare for the game or the matchup that was about to happen 1 week, 2 weeks in advance. So that all occurs throughout every day of the week. But Wednesday, officially each week, put last week's game to bed. Thursday, I would start developing material for my pregame conference, which would take place Saturday. And that would be coupled with maybe 10 or 15 plays from each team based on things I've clipped throughout the weeks, again, and the matchups. And then I would start developing that pregame for my Saturday meeting. And then Friday was kind of a breath, a little, and you're packing, you're getting ready to go. Saturday morning, up into the city that you're refereeing at, everybody in by noon, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you get into a meeting room at whatever hotel you're staying at, and for 3 hours, you have film, which would be a training tape from the home office, an instant replay tape from the home office, your playlists or things that you did, and I would delegate other responsibilities or other things throughout that meeting to each official that was on my crew, a 10-minute dissertation on something. We always would have a rules test every week. We would, I would give them other little things, special plays or enforcement. Someone would handle all these little intricacies that really the normal person doesn't really know we do, but we do, which we covered. So it would be a 3-hour meeting Saturday, go to dinner with the crew. And the beauty of the NFL is you traveled with that crew every week. You were the same 7 guys, and you got to know each other very well and their families. And then Saturday night would come, and then the beauty of Sunday, truthfully, was when you get on that shuttle bus at 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning and get to that stadium, you knew within 3 hours that you were going to get to participate in this 3-hour event that you prepared for that entire week. And that sense of just preparation and being ready for that moment never stopped. It never changed from the moment that I played all the way through the last game that I officiated. And there's just something about that made this what it really is. It's just that special to everyone that's, blessed and fortunate enough to be involved at this level, or any level for that matter. Officiating is like that for everybody.
Wow. Gene, I've never heard that before. Thank you so much for sharing that with us and letting us know what a week is like for an official in the NFL. All right, if you don't mind, I collected a bunch of questions from fans. I won't ask you all of them, but if you would be so gracious to give us a couple more minutes, I want to toss a couple of questions at you that were posed to me on social media. Number one, how cool is it to reach the pinnacle of the sport and to officiate, to be a referee in your case, at a Super Bowl?
It's that cool. It's as cool as you would expect it to be. It's more cool and very cool for all of those family members that get to go. All of these people that sat home and watched you go through this every week, and they lived it. And then to see them there and to see them enjoy that atmosphere made it the most special week and day that one of those special weeks and days I know I'll ever have with my family, and what they allowed me to do. That was my passion, and they sacrificed tremendously to allow it. So there will never be anything like that memory. I know that.
Well, it's amazing that you were able to be at the last Super Bowl and your family was as well. Okay, next question. And I can't even tell you how many people have asked me to bring this up. I even had a couple of former players tell me, ask Gene Steratore about the index card. So last December, we've got the Raiders, we've got the Cowboys. How in the world did you come to use an index card as you were measuring for a first down?
Okay, well, again, going back to my father, who is still with me. He's 84 years old, and that's what the old timers did. That's how they did it. I watched so many officials do that from high school all the way through college. That when it was that close, they would pull their penalty card out and run it down the pole. When we were out on that field and that play happens and you're looking at it and you're staring at it, and from one little bit of an angle, my gosh, it's a first down. And then if you went just beyond the other way, it's like, oh, I think he's short. And then you're worried that the pole isn't directly straight. And, are we all in line? Is it a perfect right angle? Oh, my goodness. And it was a reaction. It was football. And it was what I watched, a lot of people I admired forever kind of do. And I looked at my umpire at that time, and we kind of looked at each other and almost at the same time said, just pull the card out. And I will say that Bill Vinovich did do that before me 6 or 7 years ago. It may not have been on that same level of game or with that many viewers, but, when he said it, it was just a reaction. So I did that, and the card hit the football. And then what kind of spooked me, and I think what I probably caught the most flack from was, they wanted to make it appear like I'd done this for some kind of show or something like that. But when I turned, there actually was a camera very close on the field, which really never happens in the NFL too frequently. And a camera did get out there. So when I came around the bend and I saw that camera, that was kind of the smirk or whatever they said was, whoa, he's right there. And I kind of looked away, and naturally when you can freeze frame anything, that's what occurred. So, but my father did phone that day and said that his life was fulfilled. He said, I did something that he had done in 1965 or whatever date it was, that he remembers when he did it for the first time. So it was just a reaction.
That's amazing. I love that story so much. I'm glad I finally got to hear it from you, Gene, because it was epic. It's the stuff that that legend is made of. Okay, last thing. A couple of fans wanted to know, what's one particular comment that a coach or a player has made to you after a call that you remember? What's one story that is a good memory you can share?
Oh, boy. There's been a lot of things. A lot of them weren't coach interaction as much. I'll tell you that here was one of my favorite stories. I'll try to be as quick as I can. Monday night, Steelers and Ravens. Ray Lewis is still in Baltimore. We were working in Pittsburgh. My brother Tony was on my crew, and we were working Steelers Ravens Monday night. So I leave the I leave the house for my Saturday drive, and I was driving, not flying. So a lot of your routine changes when you drive to a game instead of flying, because you pack your bag a certain way, you go in your game suit, you leave, all those things happen, and you're very organized, and you pack things in identical fashion every week. You're creatures of habit. But because it's a drive, things are a little different. So I didn't even open my suitcase when I got to the hotel in Pittsburgh, which was only 25 miles away from my home. And when I opened it on Monday afternoon to get my dress shirt out to iron it, I realized that my referee hat was not in my bag. So I phoned home, and my children were all going to the game. I called. One son got on the phone. I said, Gene, go upstairs and see. He said, Dad, your ref hat's on the bed. And oh, my goodness. So he gets in the car, leave early. The police from Pittsburgh meet my children on Interstate 79, pull them over. They thought they were getting an escort to the game. No dice. Give us the ref hat. Get back in line. It's still going to take you 4 hours to get to the game. Unbelievable Monday night game. It's 11:58 p.m., and the game is almost over. There's 10 seconds left. One official thinks that he has a foul that's a 10-second runoff, which is going to end the game. I announced that the game was ended on a 10-second runoff. We collaborated again. It wasn't a 10-second runoff play. We had to put time back on the clock. They take a knee. Now we're walking to do. It's overtime. It's tied. First time I've ever announced overtime rules in my life. I'm panicking a little, walking from the 20 to midfield because I know they're going to film the coin toss in overtime. My older brother's over my shoulder. Do you know what you're going to say? I'm trying to push him away. Leave me alone. I'm trying to script this. I go to flip the coin. The coin doesn't flip end over end. It goes out of my thumb. I whiffed on it. The coin is in the air like a pizza shell, straight in the air. It lands and rolls. Hines Ward, Foot and Ferrier on the Pittsburgh side. Ray Lewis, I think Suggs on the Baltimore side. The coin hits the ground and rolls twice. Baltimore wins the toss. You can't catch the coin. It just is what it is. The Steeler players run back to Coach Tomlin. I punch out for TV. I see them talking. Coach Tomlin's beckoning me to the sideline. I run over. He goes, Gene, this isn't your day. And I said, Coach. He goes, Gene, the coin didn't. I said, Coach, the coin rolled when it hit the ground. So it's a legitimate toss. He said, Gene, the game ended. The game didn't end. The coin didn't flip. And he goes, you know, Gene, to make matters worse, you left your hat on the bed this morning. And I looked at him in shock, and I said, Coach, he said, Gene, when you're a head coach in the NFL, they tell you so many things, some things you don't even want to know, but you know. So when he said that to me, that was something that we kept, you know, kind of between us every time we would see each other. Did you bring your hat this week? But that was a memory that I'll never forget.
And now I will never forget it, Gene. That's so great. You are so generous to spend so much time with us and to answer so many of my questions, as well as those of my listeners. This has been such a treat for me. Longtime NFL referee and Big Ten Hoops official Gene Steratore. You can see him on the CBS family of networks now. He's part of our cast and crew. Gene, thank you so much. I look forward to the next time.
Oh, thank you. Anytime. I really enjoyed it. I hope we do it again.